You're listening to the Marketing for Learning podcast, the only podcast in the world designed to help you increase your capabilities when it comes to marketing in the learning function. We're here to help you make your learners do things they don't want to do. You're welcome. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Marketing for Learning podcast. It's been a while since you've heard my voice, so I'm super excited to get back to you guys and talk about a subject that keeps on coming up within the Marketing Masterclass and a discussion I continue to have with our clients. That is compliance training and how quarrelsome it is for us when it comes to increasing learner engagement with the learning proposition. Compliance is an interesting little thing, in my opinion. I've kind of said in the past that I think it would belong more appropriately in operations rather than learning and development. And I think the reason I say that is because it serves more of a functional role in the organization. It's primarily focused on butt covering, tick boxing exercises. And it isn't really focused on improved outcomes for the organization with the best will in the world. I know that many people are very compliance focused and they do want to keep their employees safe and reduce risk in the organization. But the problem I have is typically the mindset of organizations that lead with compliance training is this is stuff that just has to get done. And I immediately think of the learner in these experiences. You know, we've all seen a wealth of different types of compliance training, a dearth of dry, dull, humdrum training that isn't really focused at all on the learner experience and learning outcomes. It is primarily to say we have 100% completions on this module, this focus area, anti-money laundering, whatever, health and safety, whatever it might be, COSH, etc., etc. So the problem that I think we have is we're immediately starting from a place where we're kind of force feeding our employees this content, this learning content focused on compliance. It's something that business needs to operate, right? A business needs to have a certain level of compliancy in order to safeguard themselves against auditors and things like that. So a very important part of a business. Not really that much to do with learning and development. And the problem I have, and the problem that we have really with compliance training is the fact that it gets bucketed in learning and development as a function means that we have to contend with the biases and the impressions that the compliance training gives to our learners, whilst also trying to offer a very different value proposition from the learning function in terms of, well, look at all this sophisticated learning stuff that we've got and all this amazing content and this wonderful platform that enables you to do X, Y, and Z on your mobile device, wherever you are. Those two things are not consistent with one another. And I think we will probably all agree that most compliance training isn't commensurate with engaged employees. So, I want to talk a little bit about what we should do. Now, is it too much to go to your operations manager, your head of operations, your COO, and say, hey, this is ruining my function. Take compliance and put it over there. But I think it's worth having a conversation because when we really look at what learning and development is trying to do in terms of impacting behavior, changing performance, reskilling and upskilling employees, and helping the business solve very complex training and skills challenges that exist in our current climate, it's interesting to me that we are still expected to deliver on compliancy rates whilst also getting our employees highly engaged and getting them learning and proactively learning and impacting their performance as a consequence. How can we do that if the compliance training is always given a quick once over? It's this compliance, we'll just do some off-the-shelf learning for that. It's not important. It's not important to us. The problem with that is our learners still have to take that, and then that becomes their perceptions of training. You know, I have a friend who works in the public sector. They have a lot of classroom training that's very compliance focused, and that's their opinion. When they have training days, they actually dread going to work because they do not look forward to sitting in a room, being bored out of their noggins for 6, 7, 8 hours, or being forced to do e-learning modules. I mean, they've even told me that they've had their subordinates complete their health and safety or some of their compliance modules because they don't have time to do it. So this is the kind of situation that our learners are in. And this happens all around the world. Our employees will find any and every way to circumvent actually doing compliance training, whether it's just clicking next, whether it's just retrying the quiz over and over again until they get the right answers, whether it's playing a video that they have to watch in the background whilst they do other stuff. We know that our compliance training, for better or worse, is disengaging our employees. So it's almost like becoming the rod in our own backs that we have to put compliance training in the L&D function, but it's not really learning and development. It's in no way recognizable to the rest of the learning proposition that we offer. And so I've just been thinking about this a lot, and I've been wondering whether whether it's time to broach the subject and actually ask whether this is learning and development or operations, because I really do think it's the latter. And further to that, really, do we put more effort into our compliance training? Do we really start putting some energy and time into that and see what that looks like? And again, will that have a greater impact on employee engagement? I've said this to loads of my clients, and I think I've mentioned it in the masterclass as well. I would absolutely love to do a campaign for an L&D function around compliance, but have it be like a bit more self-aware. So almost like, yeah, we know this is a bit crap, but you got to do it, and here's why. And I honestly think that level of realism and self-awareness with your people would work super duper well. Again, the organization just won't fly with it. They'll be like, you can't go around telling people that this is pants, but it is. And the sooner they trust you a lot less if you're going around saying, this is great, it's going to change your life. You know it's not going to. They know it's not going to. So it immediately creates a dissonance in their mind against L&D, because what you're selling them isn't what they're getting. And as a consequence of that, there is a discord in their minds immediately. So I put it to you. Number 1, should compliance training sit within L&D, or should we be working hard to sweep this over to operations? And 2, if we are going to have compliance training in our L&D function, is there a better way for us to position it with our people so that we can still get the completion rates that the organization needs, but it's not necessarily going to have a detrimental impact on the overall perceptions of the learning brand? That's the questions we need to answer. Just a super short one today, guys. I've been jostling this around in my brain for a while now, and I just, again, kind of everything to do with marketing for learning and nothing to do with marketing for learning at the same time. But, welcome to my brain thoughts. Thanks for tuning in for 10 minutes of absolute drivel. Apologies that there's been a bit of a hiatus in, I think I say this every podcast these days. My son's been very ill with chickenpox, and it's been a trying few weeks, let's put it that way. So hopefully we are rebounding now and getting back on track. I've got quite a few interviews to edit and share with you guys, so you may well see a few interviews be dropping one after another, which would make a bit of a change for you listening to my dull humdrum voice. As always, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope that this session at least got you thinking a little bit about the role that compliance training plays in our function in terms of establishing the learning brand in your employees' brains, because everything that we do formulates that brand perception, whether we are owning the brand perceptions or not. So compliance training it causes us some problems. It puts us in a bit of a quandary. So if we could just throw it over the fence and be rid, that would be the preference, but that's unlikely. So I think, it's worth a consideration. How do we better manage it within the overall proposition of the learning function? And how do we best communicate it to our learners so that it seems authentic, real, and still relevant to them in some way? Questions I don't have the answer to, but hopefully you can find them. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back soon. Bye.